Hi, I'm Faith, and this is Willoughby DIY. Today we're going to be working on 3 awesome projects. We've got a garden flag, a spring sign, and a wreath. First up is our spring wreath. I got the form from the Dollar Tree, and it's one of their larger wood wreaths. I also picked up 3 different floral picks for this project as well. Wildflowers and the amaranthus from the Dollar Tree, and the hop clover from Walmart. And here I'm just taking all the flowers and the greenery off of the stems. First I was going to try to attach all the greenery and flowers on with floral wire, but that was way too tedious. But I am showing you here so that if that's what you want to do, you can see how I was starting to do it. I just looped a piece of the floral wire through the bottom of the greenery where it would attach to the stem, and then I attached it on to my wreath, and I glued down the greenery pieces exactly where I wanted them to be. And after I was done with that, I had laid out 5 greenery pieces evenly spaced around. I went in with the amaranthus flowers, and I used 4 of those for this. You can see how I'm just kind of wrapping from the inside of the wreath across into the back side of the wreath, and I did that with all 4 of those. And then I'm going to go in with the hop clover and the wildflower pieces and glue 1 of each at every spot where I'd placed the greenery in the beginning. So that makes 5 of the hop clover flowers and 5 of the wildflower pick flowers. And then once I was done getting all my flowers on exactly where I wanted, I just took some of the extra greenery left over from the amaranthus and the wildflower picks, and I covered up any wire or empty space that might still be showing. And here I just took some floral wire, wrapped around my fingers a few times, and twisted around itself to make a hanging ring for my wreath. And using this lacy burlap ribbon, kind of, from the Dollar Tree. I love this ribbon. I'm going to make a hanger for it. Just get it as long as you want and cut it off and attach the ends onto the ring. I used it to cover up that part where the floral wire actually wraps around itself, so it would look neater. Then I'm just going to take this little 3-inch scrap of burlap ribbon, and I'm going to pinch it together and wrap some more of that lacy burlap twine around it, or ribbon around it, lacy burlap ribbon around it, and make a little bow. I'm going to trim off the ends. And that's what it looks like when you cut it that way. And then I'm just going to attach it to the top of my ribbon up next to the ring. And that is it. I think this turned out really pretty. I do feel like it sort of needs a little something in the middle, but I'll worry about that later. And on to the next one. This is going to be a little garden flag, and I'm using a placemat I got at Goodwill. And I'm also going to use some of these large wood craft sticks. I got those from Walmart. I'm just measuring and marking where I want to cut these. I like to use the garden shears from the Dollar Tree because they cut it so much better than my scissors do. And then we're just going to stain this. I used a little bit of burnt umber paint from Apple Barrel and mixed it with water to make a stain for these. And I did have to stain both sides because the wood is so big it sort of started warping when I just did one, so I flipped over and did both. Then we're going to attach it to our placemat. I use regular hot glue, but you could use the fabric hot glue if you have it. But this worked really good. I couldn't get anything off of there. And you'll notice in the middle, I lift it up and add more hot glue. It's really flimsy if you don't, so that stabilizes it. And then more scrap burlap ribbon that I had from my quick crafts project last week. And I'm just going to trim that in 3 equal pieces and fold it and glue it and attach one to each side of the top and one in the middle to make our little hangers. And now we are going to prep our string. I'm using the cotton jute twine I got from Walmart for 50 cents on clearance. And I'm just spelling out hello with one strand, and then I'm going to double that piece up and cut it. And then use it as a guide to make 2 more pieces. So you'll have 3 in total for hello and 3 for spring. We'll do the same thing for spring because we're going to braid these. And to keep these together, I just wrapped a little bit of masking tape around the tips, tied them, and labeled them with which word they go to. Now we're going in and we're going to dye these using marsh green from Apple Barrel and mixing it with probably about a cup of water, maybe a little more. Just want to mix it really good. Then we're going to take our bundles of string and a little bit more masking tape. We're going to attach those to the bowl so that they don't submerge and wash off my label. And then we're just going to submerge the string in, and this time I let them soak for like 45 minutes or so. 30 minutes probably would have been sufficient, but I did let it soak for about 45 minutes, and then I squeezed it out, and then I hung it up to dry, and that'll take a few hours. But once it's done, it looks gorgeous. I love that green color. And then we're going to braid it. So we secure it down to a surface or wherever you want to work. And we get started braiding. This was tedious. I am not going to lie to you guys. If you want to just use some yarn that's thicker, you go right ahead, because the braiding was easy. It was the untangling it as I went. See here? It just knots up so easy. Once you're a little over halfway through, you can start braiding and then pulling one string through, and it gets a lot easier. But early on, it's very tedious. You just tie off the end and get started on your next one. And I think it turned out beautifully. It looks really cute. And we're just going to repeat that with the second one as well. Don't worry, I'll spare you. And now we're going to attach this. So I'm going to mark off my margins with a piece of masking tape on the top and bottom, and a long piece of straight down the middle. Then we're just going to start hot gluing this on. I tried to keep the braid flat so that visually all along the top you would just see the braid. And I just went through and did some dots of glue in the parts where I need it to stay still for the shape, and just spelled out hello. And after I was done with that, I did go back in and make sure there was glue on every inch of that braid to secure it to that placemat. You'll see at the end where on my B-roll where I added a little something that I didn't record. I had a lot of leftover greenery from the projects in this video, and there was some little leaves that I had trimmed off of stuff, and I just sort of attached those little leaves on parts of this wording so it would look more I guess more like a little vine. And once I get that finished up, I'm just gonna tie it off on the back. And I wrapped it around because I thought it looked really nice that way, but you could trim it off on the front if you wanted. Now we're just getting started on that second word, spring. And I did the same process really. I was more confident with this one because I'd already done hello, and so I mostly put the glue exactly where I wanted it all along it while I did this word. Now I haven't done this yet because I haven't picked any Scotchgard up, but I am going to waterproof it with some Scotchgard spray because it is supposed to be a garden sign, so I do want to put it outside. If you guys want to see a video of me Scotchgarding this so you can learn how to do it, it'll be my first time using Scotchgard, but we can learn together. Just let me know in the comments. Also, when I was putting this flag onto my pole, my little garden flag pole that I got from the Dollar Tree, to do the B-roll footage for this video, it was tough. Because the end is curved, I just had to bend it. So I would recommend maybe using a different way of hanging it, maybe couple pieces of chain or jute rope or nautical rope or something, because the way I designed my hanger made me have to bend out my flag pole to attach it. And then I had to bend it back so it looked the same as it did before. But if you don't mind bending it and fighting with it a little bit, go right ahead and use those ribbon hangers. And the end of the G, I just sort of made a little spiral, which is what I did for the I in spring as well. So I just stuck it on there and just wrapped it around a few times to make a little flat spiral. I was wanting to add a piece of one of those flowers from the little small rose picks from the Dollar Tree, but that was not working at all. I don't know why, it just would not stay. So I just used this little wooden flower bead I had just lying around. Someone gave me them ages ago, and so I thought I'd use one of those. And I'm securing my ribbon on the back with some craft sticks. And that's how it turned out. I really love it. I think it's absolutely adorable. You can see those little leaves. Next up is our spring truck sign. And I got this little metal truck sign from the Dollar Tree, and I just removed that hanger. I'm going to use these two types of craft sticks, the regular size ones and the skinny ones. You can both get from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to make like a little, I don't know what you call it. It's like a fenced in truck bed. And I'm just figuring out how I want to lay it out. But once I do, I'm going to mark it off and cut. And I cut 4 pieces like this to go in the middle. And then I marked off this one that is going to stand vertical in the middle. And then I did my larger pieces that frame it out. I had a lot of fun with this project, so I hope you guys like watching this. And then I'm just going to sand the ends of all of those sticks. It just makes it look much nicer, and you don't get splinters. See, there's a side-by-side comparison of sanded, not sanded. And then we're using burnt umber mixed with a little water to make a nice stain for these. So it's the same stain I used to make the wood pieces on my garden flag. And I gave these about 2 coats, I think. And I did the sides as well. Once they're all dry, we're gonna stick them on there. And I used a combination of this wood glue from the Dollar Tree and my hot glue. It's probably totally unnecessary, but I just wanted to, I don't know, make sure it was gonna stay. Now I'm just attaching all my bigger pieces, and then the top and bottom little piece. And this one I kind of had to shove in there and sandwich it in and then glue it. And the two back ones I marked off a little guideline to make sure I placed it in the right place. And I did the same thing. But I wanted to put these on the back so there was a little more dimension with that fenced in truck bed thing. And in the end, you kind of can't see it that good once I add the flowers, but I'm still glad I did it. And now we're going to make a sign with this little guy. So I just took 2 pieces of cardboard, and they're 1 foot by 1 foot square. And I'm going to glue those together just with some regular school glue. Now you could just use a piece of scrap wood you might have lying around, or if you have an old Dollar Tree sign you don't want anymore, or just pick one up if you wanted. But I have this, so I'm using this. And I just weighed it down and let it dry overnight. And the next day I went in with my square and I marked off at 4 inches on each side. And just cleaned up the edge, and I'm going to add in this triangle, like an indent, on each of those 4-inch marks and on the edges. I want to kind of make it look like, I guess, fencing, because we're going to make this look like wood, like a wood sign. I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife and trim all that out on both sides, and it ends up looking like this. Now we're going to cover it in contact paper. This is not from the Dollar Tree. This contact paper my sister gave me ages ago, so I thought I'd use it up. But the Dollar Tree has a couple of shades of wood grain contact paper that would look beautiful on this project. And I'm going to cut it in strips, that way it looks like 3 individual planks. So just measured it, cut it a little bit wider than I needed it. We're going to attach it on there and smooth it out really nice, and then flip it over and snip and press. You can see that first one was a mess. We're going to do that with both the top and the bottom piece. And I left this one in here so you could see how I how I cut and folded it, in case you have trouble with this. I do, but this worked out for me, so hopefully this will help you as well if you have trouble with this. And then once I'm done with it, I take my square and just indent it where the individual planks are supposed to be. And now I wanted to make my truck stand out on the sign, so I'm taking some of that scrap cardboard that I used for the back, and I'm cutting 3 pieces and gluing them together, and I'm doing that. I'm going to make 3 of those. So 3 threes. And then I got a genius idea while I was doing that, and I'm like, I'm going to add a road to this. So I took some of my burlap ribbon from Walmart, and I centered it in the middle of that bottom plank, and I made a road. And in case you could see it from the side, I did the extra step of wrapping those little squares in contact paper. And you want to be careful with this and make sure you're double checking with your truck and lining it up. And I needed to cover that little hole from the jute hanger that came on this, so I took this little crafting stick toothpick thingy and I painted it silver. And once it was dry, I added a little scrap piece of this pink burlap ribbon. I actually got this from the Dollar Tree ages ago, and I have probably like a foot left of it, maybe. We're just gonna trim it like I did the ribbon on the wreath, actually, but only on one side. Wrap it around that little stick and glue it down. And this is completely optional. And there it is, cute little flag. Then we just attach it to our truck. in the end, you'll see in my B-roll, I do add another one of those little wood flower beads like I did on the garden sign to this little flag. Make sure you glue this down really good. It covered it pretty well. And then we're just gonna attach our truck to the sign. Finally. And then you can add in whatever greenery and as much of it as you want to the back of the truck. I'm gonna show you what I did, but make it your own. Use whatever colors you got, whatever colors you want to use. But this was really cheap because I only used like, I think not even all of the pick of the spider plant. I used like one little piece of it and then like 3 of the leaves. And then I used like 1 of the wildflower pieces. And then some greenery I had left over from making the wreath. And this is where I got those little leaves to stick onto my garden flag. And then just 2 hydrangea flowers, 1 in blue, 1 in white. And here's another piece from that spider plant pick. And then I just hot glued them in where I wanted them. And I think it turned out nice. You can't really see the fenced in truck bed very good, but I still love it. And to make it look like even more of a road, I had so much of this braid left for the garden flag. So I used it on this project too. I just glued that down to make it look like the center of a road, which basically makes my truck look like they can't drive, but it's okay. And then I'm gonna flip that over and secure that excess ribbon around on the back side. And yes, the back looks absolutely terrible, but I'm gonna put something over that later. To make my hanger, more of the green braid, more of the green braided cotton twine from my garden flag project. Just gonna secure that down with some craft sticks and some hot glue. And like I said, we got to cover that back up. So I just used a little square of craft paper. It doesn't look perfect, but it looks much better than it did before. Plus this should help keep that contact paper from peeling up because it was wanting to do that on me a lot. I just snipped off those little bits of yarn where I had them knotted there. It would lay flush wherever I hung it up. And that's it, guys. If you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.